When they got to Rocket Man's, the retro-futuristic burger joint over on Dunbar, they were the only two in their booth. It seemed like whoever else Danny was planning to meet had stood them up, but that was fine. Kevin didn't want to meet a bunch of Balfour jocks and their girlfriends. "You never been here before?" Danny asked. "Nah, I've been curious, but never been. I love the Jungle Burger. It's not what you think." "What would I think? A pineapple and some avocado on it or something." "Yeah, I guess that's what I'd think. Just pineapples and avocados don't come from the jungle, so there's that. But bananas do." "It's a banana burger?" Kevin asked skeptically. "Fried bananas with curry and chili apricot sauce. So good." There was something about the way Danny said that last part, something so unmacho, yet so secure in himself, with the complete unself-consciousness of the Latin male. Kevin said, "Maybe they have pineapple in the jungle of whatever planet this is supposed to be." They looked around at the atom punk decor, Kevin for the first time and Danny for the first time critically. There were a lot of murals with yellow and pink Saturns, improbable 1940s comic book spaceships, sexy Deja Thorises, and dashing Northwest Smiths. But it seemed like they were all somehow Russian. A strategically placed red star here, a hammer and sickle there, a Betty Page-style space concubine who was warm enough to be in a copper breastplates and gossamer loincloth, but cold enough to need a tall fur Ushanka hat. It was the kind of science fiction that there might have been if the Soviets had won the space race. Danny looked back at Kevin for a moment and then shrugged and said, "That burger's from the Dagobah system." Kevin looked at him in his wine red and gold varsity jacket, thinking how odd it was that he was sitting here with the enemy, liking him better than his own friends. There was no facade of toughness they had to feign, no, for lack of a better word, anti-intellectualism or reluctance to sound smart. They both got jungle burgers, Kevin taking Danny's word for it, with those thick-cut fries that still had potato peel on one side and studded with little chunks of salt like diamonds. They made small talk for a while, questions punctuated by loud slurps of milkshake from thick red straws, until Danny asked the million-dollar question. "You got a girlfriend?" Kevin avoided it with a conspicuously large bite, desperately taken, that took forever to chew. Danny grinned with one side of his mouth and made an obnoxiously loud slurp with his straw. Looking out at the people at the other tables, Kevin noticed kitschy curiosities on the walls like they have in Applebee's and Fridays, those things rescued from some hoarder's basement to create nostalgia. But these were ray guns and retro-futuristic model planes, Art Deco robots and spaceships spruced up like hot rod classic cars for alien teenage greaser punks. Bubbles flowed up from the floor to the ceiling in curved clear pilasters filled with colored light. No matter where Kevin looked, he felt those gray-green Afghan girl eyes boring into him, until he couldn't avoid them any longer. He swallowed hard, took a slurp of his milkshake, and finally looked up. "It's okay," Danny said. "You can tell me." And the dam burst. Kevin spilled his guts about Debbie, all the pent-up things he couldn't tell Jeremy, Matt, Adam, and Chris, all the things he wouldn't have been able to tell a priest until he found he could confide in this kid who'd showed him a very unexpected kindness. He blabbered on for at least half an hour until the fries had gotten cold and starchy and the waitress had come over to be waved away 3 times. When Kevin's tirade had finally ended, the silence reminded Danny of that time he'd gone to a casino with his parents. He had wandered around on the dark green and gold filigree carpeting, looking at people on bar stools hunched over blackjack hands, or shouting at spinning roulette wheels until he came to the rows of one-armed bandits. All those lemons and cherries and flashing lights and the warped reflections of other machines and lights in the faux gold surfaces, and the bleeps and whoops inviting him to feed them all his allowance money. Then he heard someone's miracle happen. An alarm sounded, a metal bell banging away at the top of the machine while lights flashed and quarters began to spill out of the wide mouth and into a woman's lap. She gaped at them in shock, watching them jingle over her legs and onto the carpet beneath her stool. It might have only taken a few seconds, but those seconds seemed to last a lifetime, and when the last coin came banging out of the machine to fall with a silvery tink, she stared in baffled wonder. The silence that followed was heavy and lasted forever, the calm in the wake of a bomb blast. While Kevin was embarrassed, Danny found himself thinking the same thing he did in the casino. Jackpot. He almost didn't want the moment to end, but he knew if he didn't make his move, the opportunity would be lost forever. So now you worry she's right. You might be bi? Kevin screwed his face up in misery. I don't know! The shadow of a doubt. Would you rather know for sure? For the peace of mind? How could I? You're good. What? I gotta hand it to you. You really had me going. What? This whole roller coaster of a story, beating around the bush to finally get to the point? Come on. You had this all planned out from the beginning. Dude, what are you talking about? Kevin, Danny said with his dazzling smile, I'm gay.